Welcome to the California Automated Drone Podcast, where we talk to experts in the field about their experiences in the drone industry. I'm your host, Josh Friedman, and I'm so excited we're here today with Desiree Ekstein from Women in Drones. She is an entrepreneur, a business owner, and also an educator at Miracosta College. Check it out.
There are drone sports community groups in just about every community.
Oh, I want to be a drone service provider and I'm going to go do drone mapping. Well, for what?
All of the things that I've done is to promote safety for our industry.
But if you really want to go in depth into understanding what you're doing, a community college along with online learning is a way to go.
Hey, Desi, thank you so much for joining us. Where are you coming from today?
I am in beautiful Lake Elsinore, California.
Wow, and that is a beautiful place for sure. I'm loving your background image here. You know, we have the yellow vests. Ours have our logo on the back. There's all this conversation in our industry about yellow vests and should we have them, should we not have them? And you know, I've got a quick story. We were doing an event for the Santa Ana Police Department, huge outdoor community-wide event, obviously before COVID, and there was an area that was blocked off. And there were a couple police officers there, and it was a perfect, ideal location for us to launch and land because there were no people other than these police officers. And we went up to them and said, "Hey, do you mind if we cross the barrier and go to fly?" And their response was, "Man, you're wearing a yellow vest. You can go wherever you want." And it was so like, wow, these yellow vests, they do make a difference and they do matter. Do you find the same thing as well? Like it helps you and your company when you guys are flying wearing them?
I do. And it's one of the things that I definitely teach is the professionalism. And it just is an indication of how professional you are and lets you backstage to a lot of places.
Absolutely. How did you get into this industry? What was your background before you were flying drones and teaching?
Okay, so before I was actually flying and put on the whole new hat in life, I was the owner of an event coordinator, a huge company. And so dealing with the weddings and events and such has made things very important to me as far as having structure. And so when I put on my new hat and became a Part 107 pilot, I came from a family of aviators, but I never really wanted to do a private pilot's type of thing myself. Took a few classes, but I never actually did the flying. And so FAA came along and said, you need to become a 333 and get the 333 exemption. I did. So I said, okay, now I really do have to go out and fly. And so I decided to take the approach of hot air balloon. And my first experience in a hot air balloon was a propane leak, and we came down immediately. And so I thought, maybe that's not for me.
Wow.
I was really glad when the 107 came along.
So did you ever finish your private pilots with the hot air ballooning?
No, I did not. No.
Wow. I'm going to take a second and I'm going to just go back in history all the way back to 2013, 2014, because we were having a very similar experience at the time. And I go into depth in another episode with Kent Nairhus about this because we talk about FAA 107, 333 exemptions. And I ended up also getting a 333 exemption. I hired a lawyer for quite a bit of money to fill out all the paperwork to get it for us. And before 107, that was the only way that you could fly legally for commercial use. And the one stipulation that was a problem for everybody, except there was one person, there was one company that got this line taken out. And nobody believes me, but I'm telling you, it was in April of, I think, 2015. You could find that company. The stipulation was you had to have an actual pilot with a Part 61 responsible for the flight. And what I ended up doing was just meeting pilots. I'm still friends to this day with a bunch of airplane pilots that would come and fly with us, or at least stand next to me while I was flying. Of course, they were on the sticks for anybody who's paying attention. But, and then there were people doing what you did that were going to get the cheapest, quickest way was either a hot air balloon license or was the, what are those things called where you're sitting in the plane and it's got a fan on the back?
Paramotor with the kite?
Yes,
or
exactly. The paramotor flying.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, those were the two cheapest, quickest ways to get your private pilot's license. It was still $8 to $10 grand, but it wasn't $20 grand, and you didn't have to spend 60 hours. It was a little bit less. But there are a number of people still to this day that the only reason why they became private pilots or got these licenses was because they wanted to fly commercially and didn't want to have to hire a pilot so they can operate under the 333. And I agree with you. It was such a blessing when 107 came out so that that was no longer the situation.
Yes. Yes, I was very, very glad. My uncle was a Part 61 pilot, and so I was kind of lucky that way. But yeah, I would love to actually take a class right now to do the paramotors.
I think that'd be great. I mean, there's a couple companies in Southern California that do that. Be a lot of fun. I find frequently that everything in life either takes time or money, and I tend to have one and not the other pretty much all the time. So
Yeah.
that's my challenge with that right now. But moving forward, so you've been doing this a long time. What was your main industry when you first got involved? What were you doing with drones?
I was, like so many people, it was real estate. It was the higher perspective. It's the flying camera. And so actually, I made the most incredible home movies. Everybody loved my home movies. And so it just morphed from that. And so being a stickler for details, once the FAA did start to implement some of the rules and regulations, I tend to go down that path. So like the 333, like the 107, I made sure that I was right on board right when they started coming out with the rules and regulations. And that just kind of has been the direction that I've gone. Safety is huge with me. And so all of the things that I've done is to promote safety for our industry.
And in what year did you start teaching at Miracosta, and how did that come about?
I've been there for 3 years now, and so it actually started because I do a program up in San Diego for a youth STEM program called Girls Take Flight, and I started with that program. That one is where we take the young ladies that are 16 years old. We teach them the Part 107 and teach them how to fly. And once I went through that, I had just that bug to get out and share with others and help others. I have a passion for when people are first getting started and they open up that box and go, wow, what now? They look at that drone and don't even know where to begin. And so my passion was to help others. So when the opportunity came open at TCI, I took the interview and got the job, and I've been there ever since. And the program is a little bit different in that it's unmanned systems technician. And so we are from aerial to underwater. And my portion of the training is the aerial side of it.
I love it. And we've interviewed one of your friends, Founce Genesee, one of your students, I should say. And one of the things that he went into was that you're teaching classes in underwater drones in addition to aerial and probably ground as well.
Yes, a star student. He was wonderful. Amazing things he's done.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't checked out his interview, I highly recommend listening to his interview about drone manufacturing and all the amazing stuff that Founce is doing as well. So you mentioned Women in Drones, which is an organization that I've been a member of probably for, since the middle of 2020. But I've seen the presence of Women in Drones at many conventions, from Interdrone to Commercial Drone Expo. What is Women in Drones, and what's your involvement with the organization?
So Women in Drones is an organization that is highlighting the women that are actually within the industry. And that is not just drone pilots, but there's people from all aspects, whether they're running the corporations, they're out there managing the construction sites, they're doing different digital productions, all sorts of different entities. And we have a strong presence in the industry, and it just gives us a place that we can be recognized for the gifts and talents that we have. I myself am part of a Tuesday morning coffee connections with a friend of mine. Her name is Kim Players, and we do this weekly thing. It's a networking, and it's worked out really well because it's like the old chamber mixers where you used to get together and network with people. Well, now we do it online, and so it's been fun because we've been able to connect all across the world, and so it's been really great making these connections.
And I will just say, if I could put a plug in, I have really enjoyed the coffee connections as well. And we need to get more women into this industry. I mean, it's definitely a male-dominated group of people that run the industry. I mean, even if you look at the FAA, the board of people advising the FAA, I believe they're all men, if I'm not mistaken at the moment. Are there any female on that board? Are there any women on that board at all?
Not sure about that board, but I know the percentages right now are like 6 or 7% out of the entire industry.
Wow. And we're up to 6 or 7%, I believe. It was less than that 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I know, we're trying to support as much as we can to get as many young women in the industry, teaching them early, getting them involved now, and I'm just loving what you guys are doing with Women in Drones. And again, how do people get involved with Coffee Connection? How do they get an invite to attend that Tuesday group?
Well, if you go to the Women in Drones website, there's a drop down where it talks about all of the online opportunities that there are, and it's easy, it's free. You sign up and you get the link to come join us every Tuesday morning and share and connect. Just be there. Oh, also we have a spotlight speaker. Every week we have one spotlight speaker, and it's just a quick little introduction to what people are doing in the industry. And we've had so many different people that have come on and just shared, and you're able to, in more of a relaxed atmosphere, talk and ask questions, and they've just been more than helpful, the spotlight speakers are.
And I hope this is obvious, but you don't have to be a woman to join Women in Drones. Again, I've been a member. I know a lot of the speakers, although most of the speakers have been women, some of the speakers are men as well. And it's a really inclusive group. Again, I've been really just enjoying seeing everybody. You mentioned Chamber of Commerce, and I think this is something that a lot of people are missing out on, because I actually am really active in 2 local chambers of commerce, the Greater Irvine Chamber of Commerce and the Tustin Chamber. And it's been a great opportunity for my business and for networking, and we get a ton of work. We also give a lot of leads and referrals to people within the chamber. And since COVID has happened, obviously we're all doing our meetings online and our networking online. What we have found is that we're not getting any less business and any less referrals or less leads from meeting online as opposed to meeting in person. If anything, it's saving us a ton of time, and we're still getting a lot of work out of it. And I think that with the Coffee Connection, for me, it's been an opportunity to see friends. It's been a great opportunity to literally, be in the room and to see people that I've been going to conventions with for the past 7, 8, 9 years in some cases. And some of the speakers that you've had, I've known for a really long time. Shout out to Douglas Spotted Eagle recently, and I see Vic Moss there all the time. In addition to so many of the regulars, I think, in the industry. So thanks to you and Kim for putting that together. Let's take
for joining us for it.
Let's take a moment. I want to look at some pictures, kind of demonstrating kind of what you do with drones. What do you have to share with us today?
So I have several. I have some from the capstone presentations that we've done at the college, which I'm very proud of. The students are amazing. And so I have that. I have some of the work that I've actually done. And then my background actually is one of the jobs that I'm proud of here in Lake Elsinore. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I think it was about 2, maybe 3 years ago, all over national news was the California poppies. Do you remember when there was just
absolutely
thousands of people? They were flooding the hills of Lake Elsinore, and I was actually hired to go out and film the California poppies right here. And that's what that job was. And so it's one of my proud moments. And
that is so cool.
Beautiful out there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't get a lot of rain out here, and when it does rain, and occasionally we get these big ones, all of a sudden California turns beautiful and green, and colored flowers are on the side of the road everywhere. And I think that was one of those times and one of those moments. That's fantastic. Well, let's go to a screen share so you can share some of these pictures with us and tell us what you have.
This is the capstone project that was done through TCI, the Unmanned Systems class. It was a fantastic opportunity. We actually kind of piggybacked it with the Drone Safety Awareness Week that the FAA does. And so we had several people from law enforcement, public safety come out, and we did a training on night operations. And so we had Fox Fury Lighting was there, and we also had Leica system come out and did a laser scan, and the students, actually that is a student laying there, we actually did a whole mapping mission demonstration for night operations, and it was fantastic. It went really, really well.
I love it, and I'm seeing some gear that we use as well. So it looks like you have some arrow points. So the squares there. What do the arrow points do? What's the function of those?
So those are the ground control points that we use. It will actually lock into the GPS location, and then when you're doing your mapping mission, then you can actually tie into that ground control point and say that is the actual geo-referenced location. And so it'll tighten up your models when you're trying to do something that needs precision. You'll be able to tighten up that model that you're providing.
Yeah, and I'm also noticing, just a quick shout out, that you've got the Hoodman landing pads back there with the lights around them. I do want to even give them a shout out because they are a California-based company, and we recently had a case that the handle broke because we've abused it and used it, and they replaced it with a free brand new one for us. So I don't know if I think they do that for everybody. Either way, shout out to Hoodman for your awesome landing pads and your lights that go around them for night use. So I have those there as well.
Yes. And Fox Fury is the one who provided those lights that are there for lighting up the entire scene that we did, and they're fantastic. They are also based here in California as well.
I love it. Well, what a great example for the students to learn night operations and get a lot of different skills from mapping to photography and more. Let's see the next one. What's the next image you have?
I love doing the 3D models. I love preserving history when we go out and map some of the old gold towns and mining industries. And we actually came across this particular one, and the gentleman let me come in and do a map of his facility that he had here. And so this one, I've done a 3D model of it, and it's also kind of in line with what we're learning at the college as well, because we take it from the mapping. We're using the Pix4D program, and then we turn it into the 3D models. And this particular one was just one of my favorites, and it's in Congress, Arizona.
And for those that are listening and not watching, what we're looking at here, it's just a tiny little Adobe-style house. I don't know what else to call it, right? Probably a small residence for somebody who once was, in the 1800s, early 1900s, probably mining for gold. Is that about right?
Yes. We go out and preserve history and look for old mining communities, and came across this one.
I love it. And what else? Do you have one more photo or one more image you can share with us?
So this is another project that I was asked to fly with Airborne Works, and it's another one where we were testing out the various different mapping programs that are available. This one was done with, in comparison to Skybrowse, and it's done with also the lights with Fox Fury lighting, and it's another one of my favorite ones that I got to go out and do, because the mapping and the forensics and such is just so important to me, and so I'm kind of excited to share this one as well.
I think that's awesome. I mean, I literally 2 weeks ago was involved with the forensics project. I helped a lawyer to kind of demonstrate with video a car accident that was able to highlight some specific cars that were in the accident, make that cleaner, make it clearer. And unfortunately, it was a fatality. Somebody died in that accident. And with our footage, he was able to prove the innocence of the person who hit him. And he literally wrote me, and the text said, "Thank you for helping me save a life." And I think that, there are a lot of things that we could do with video production, photography, when it comes to forensics, either with a drone or on the ground. And I think it's awesome that you're doing this and that you're also teaching people how to do this, because there is a ton of work out there in those fields, and it really, really does make a difference in people's lives. This person would have gone to jail for the rest of life for murder when it wasn't their fault. And we were able to provide the data with video showing that. So what you're doing here is can have ramifications that are life-changing for people.
Yes. And the fact that you can do the exact measurements and just provide that detailed data is just so important.
I love it. Well, let's conclude with my final question, which is, what advice would you give to somebody that wants to get into the drone industry, that wants to be flying drones for work, for a career, or even for a hobby?
I am one that is very big on safety. So my first steps that I would recommend is to, once you get your drone, really take time to learn it, learn the rules, learn the regulations, find out where you can and cannot fly, and just really get good on those sticks and learn the skill. Don't just take off and say, I'm flying out here having a good time. Realize that you're in airspace that may limit you where you can be flying. So take some time and learn your stick skills and where you're flying and the rules and regulations.
And where can people go to get that type of education and to learn that kind of material?
Well, of course, YouTube has all kinds of things, but I always say go to the source, go to the FAA, because right there you're going to find the drone zone. You'll be able to register your drone. You'll get a lot of pertinent information. It'll talk about the test that's needed if you are going to be doing your Part 107. It'll talk about if you're going to be flying for recreational purposes. It has outlined data that you'll need for following those rules and where you might find some community-based programs. And so I tend to say always go right to the source, go to the FAA website.
And I will tell you as well, it's another great source. You saw this coming. I know it for those of you who've been watching. Go to CaliforniaAutomated.com. It's a great resource. We actually, we have, there's a map on CaliforniaAutomated.com that we have put together where you could see every college, every university, every community college in the state with contact information, where you can go and you can get trained in different industries and get your drone career started. And, yes, I agree. Online education, there's a ton of stuff. There's a ton of content. But for those who want to learn in a classroom, whether it's virtual or in person, and having an expert like you as their teacher, right, at Maricosta College, I know makes a huge difference.
So I always recommend that you find somebody that has experience in training, and find a reputable place. There are a lot of people out there that are offering training, but you want to make sure that you found somebody that's providing training that has that background knowledge of really what's happening in the industry.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Well, Desi, I just want to say thank you so much. And as I'm doing this, I think Yogi's going to join us for the closer of this one. Hold on one second. I think he really wants something. But for those watching, Yogi's now joined the podcast. He's becoming famous for being part of our podcast. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this one out by just saying thank you so much to those who are watching or listening. And if you want more information about drone careers, where you could get educated to help your drone career take off, please check out CaliforniaAutomated.com. Find us on social media, share, listen, subscribe, and learn. This has been another awesome episode of the California Automated Drone Podcast. I am your host, Josh Friedman, and we've just been hanging out with Desiree Ekstein of Women in Drones and Maricosta College, and we're both reminding you to fly safe and fly often.